Hello, listeners. It's been a long week, but guess what? We made it. Welcome to a very special episode of Blighty Day Fiance, your 9th, 10th, or 11th favorite reality TV recap podcast. My name is Michelle, coming to you from Los Angeles, via London, England, via Bethesda, Maryland. And with me today are two of my favorite persons. It's Baby J.
Hey, everybody. We are live here in Los Angeles where it is a comfortable 96 degrees outside. Michelle almost passed out waiting in a coffee line.
That I bailed from.
She did bail, rightfully so, though. If anyone, I don't want to hear anything about the beautiful weather here. It is August, and it is MFing hot here. Diana, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciated that Michelle bailed on the line, but still decided to order coffees, which was so LA of her. So thank you, Michelle. We are caffeinated here because we had a long week, didn't we?
We had a long week. I have had to relocate twice for reasons that we won't go into. It's nothing fun or mysterious. It's just, these are just logistics. So I moved from a hotel into a nearby Airbnb, which is very nice, although the air conditioning's not cold enough. And I said to the landlord in a text message today that it wasn't cold enough, and he hasn't responded. He texted me just to check it. You guys
Are you
absolutely
spiraling,
don't
Michelle?
care about this
No,
stuff. I am spiraling. Anyway,
Yes, but the nobody cares portions of our show are actually really entertaining. So just because you think nobody cares, they might care.
I
Okay.
care.
So
I care.
for those of you who might care, I'm ADHD. That's autistic and ADHD. I was diagnosed very late in life, and I've gone through over the past 2 years a system of unmasking, which means doing the things, sort of descaffolding the things that are psychologically, physically, emotionally, spiritually very painful for me to continue in order to maintain, I guess, appearance of normalcy, which is hilarious to anyone who listens to this. Believe it or not, it's a thin veneer, but there is a veneer nonetheless. I can almost be normal in social situations. Anyway, yeah, lots of change happening. I'm very overwhelmed. The heat is melting my brain into nothing. My scores on the New York Times puzzles have been extremely disappointing of late.
Is that something that can set you off for an entire day? If you do the New York crossword games and you don't do well, is it kind of like, this is going to be a shit day, I should just go back to sleep and try again tomorrow?
When it's something like, what's not connections,
Strands.
When it's something like strands, where I feel like this is a fucking word search. Like, I did these when I was 5, and older people do this to like combat dementia, right? I should be able to do this. And today was one of those days where like I couldn't do it, and it has.
Well, you did get them
I've
done,
taken
to
a
be
hit.
fair.
Yeah, I used just as many hints as you did today.
I
fair.
just stopped laughing at your scores.
Are you shaming us about our scores on strands?
No, because I'd like to know, for our many, many, many men who listen, or let me say, our many, many man who listens to our show. I don't know, or people out there who play these games with men. I always do worse than both Diana and Michelle, and I make sure it's not a hit to my confidence because I know I'm going to finish third. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like a man-woman thing or not, but I am not beating the women in these games lately.
Well, Jack, some of us prefer not to think on a binary scale.
Mm-hmm. You've left
So
out
Yes.
I would open. I would just be. I'm saying I would just be open to thinking about competing with people, not.
That's fair.
non-gender specific, just people.
If things were not so, if there were not such traditional gender roles that you two force upon, might be able to like expand my purview.
That is true. We do objectify you and expect you to do all the manual labor.
Speaking of, for those of you who have the video feed, just take a look at these guns today and his really sexy cutoff shirt. I mean, Looking good, my man.
Thank you, Diana.
Now,
Golf clap from me. Yes.
See, it's a little sour and a little sweet over here.
what about salty?
That's
Who's
what I meant.
salty?
Salty?
I'm
Salty
not
and
salty.
sweet.
I just, I'm a married woman, Married. Sorry. We just, Diana and I have been binging this rewatch of New York Housewives, and we just got over like a whole season, Luann, 2 whole seasons of Luann talking about how married she is.
Can
and
you
now
believe it?
And now she's like, can you believe it, girls? I don't ever want to talk about it again.
Don't bring it up. It's really
Just
too
don't
hard
bring it
for
up.
me.
It's old news.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
So, yeah. And also, respect.
Hey, listen, we're going to mix in some more personal babble here, but Michelle, what is this gigantor episode?
I'm bringing
A
it back,
smorgasbord.
folks. I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing the megabus back. Now, an omnibus is something that happens on TV in Britain. Usually it's with soap operas so that you can catch up on the week if you didn't get a chance to watch your Coronation Street or your EastEnders or your Hollyoaks, whatever poison you choose is available then on the weekends for you to catch up on. And Bravo does this too, by the way. We are taking very special measures here. So we are doing a megabus. We're going to start out with HEA and Plathville in our first half, and that's going to be on the public feed. And then for our Patreonies, we're going to go into Love is Blind UK, sorry, and then some of the other shows that we've been watching and have just sort of, around in the ether, and other discussions we've had on Sidebar. So I'll make a very clear demarcation. For those of you who are like, why are you paywalling it? I'm paywalling it because I need to, because no one needs us talking for 3 hours. Trust me.
Somebody needs it, but everybody doesn't.
The people who really need it have made the decision to pay for it.
Exactly. The people who really need it, like, we love and appreciate you so much. So that's what we're doing. Patreon.com/BladyDay. We are also, for those of you who would love more from us but aren't comfortable with Patreon for one reason or another, we are opening new avenues as part of a relaunch that we are very excited about happening in October. So, yes.
I just want to say we'll be getting, everything's going to stay the same up until that rebrand. There's nothing changing in the immediacy.
Yes. And I also want to say, if you're worried about any of the shows that we're covering right now going away, nope, we are
never
keeping. Yeah, we're adding things. We're not getting rid of things. Okay. So,
and one other note here, because it's a tech note here, everybody. And if I ask Michelle to do a tech note, she's going to hit me in the face.
That's true. So without further ado, should we get started with HEA?
So we're talking about the HEA Tell-All Part 2.
Aired last Sunday.
That's right. We've got a lot to say about it. I'd say the most entertaining part was in the house, but...
And that's going to be the focus of proceedings. Like, these are all, there's nothing, in fact, I'm going to go as far as saying there's nothing on the reunion, the weird studio part so far that we haven't been over and over and over again.
Are you saying that you already knew that Jasmine and Gino had a sex life issue? Did you know that he watches porn?
The only thing that might get lost there that you haven't covered, although you covered it a little bit, but is your burgeoning infatuation with Rob not being a piece of shit.
I'm always infatuated with people changing. I love growth. And I also love when people show themselves to be very different from, everyone. As you well know, when I get a ping, it distracts me and derails my brain. What were we talking about?
You're talking about how you love seeing people grow, and especially when they change, from maybe the first feelings you had about them, their first edits on a reality show.
You're also talking about the big things that we learned, like, for instance, like Kobe and Emily rely on her parents. Like, that was groundbreaking information that we just got. Although we did, look, there's some movement. There's some movement in some of these segments.
I mean, I think Sophie and Rob in different instances were both the voices of reason.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten to their segment yet.
No, it wasn't even about that.
No,
right.
They were talking about other people's stuff.
No, I'm saying, but I bet you all of that breaks down when they start talking to each other.
Oh, definitely. It almost feels like they're really good viewers, but like when they're in it, they are terrible. Yeah, I guess all we learn in the beginning of this episode is more about Gino not wanting to sleep with Jasmine and like getting called out a lot. A lot of the guys are getting called out for their porn and sexual proclivities. And I felt a little uncomfortable with that. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, look, if it was, we were talking about this when we were watching it, that if this was a guy acting like this towards women, this would be a real problem. But for some reason, it's okay for everyone to bully Gino about whatever his sexual performance issues may be. And, you know, and this is where we're getting into territory where people are showing better sides of themselves. We see one guy who comes to Gino's defense is Rob, who, you know, and I don't want to jump too far ahead here.
And don't forget Sophie. She does too.
Yes, she does too. I just want to...
It's mostly a lot of the women. Well, and then the men saying comments like, you should just sleep with her, bro. Like, what? Just sleep with her. She wants you to sleep with her. Just have some sex, bro.
Okay,
If my wife did that.
There's only one guy who sounds like that, who's saying that, and that's fucking Patrick. At first, because, you know, I joined Michelle to start covering HEA about halfway through the season or so, and she said, yeah, you know, we don't cover Patrick, and I didn't really, you know, I was like, okay, that's fine, because I'm not a huge fan. And then, like, over the course, I'm like, okay, cool, it doesn't seem that interesting, and we get to cut out like 20 minutes of showtime. But now I'm like, Michelle, I get it, Patrick's a motherfucker, and all he wants to do is, like, I don't know, is he like bro big timing these other guys? Michelle, what do you take away from Patrick's demeanor and how he's interacting with everybody in the house?
It's difficult for me not to look at this without my producer hat on.
I'm going to rip it off your head.
Why don't you just lasso it? Sorry, I'll let you in on an inside joke. This all stems from the fact that Diana and I have decided that Alexi has a ginormous hog.
Oh, yeah.
And that the reason why, that's an inappropriate euphemism. He has a huge penis. And the reason why he and Lauren never argue is because whenever they do, he just picks it up, throws it over his shoulder, and starts to make a lasso motion. And then until it gets hard, and then goes ka-thunk. And yeah,
reels her right in.
A
fishing rod should.
So look, what do I think about Patrick and I think that he and Kobe are probably two of the more eager to please cast members I think they have the best relationships with the producers.
No, I thought you were going to say the best sex lives.
No, out of these men, I think that because can you imagine saying to Gino, like, hey, Gino, can you speak candidly about your sex life? Like, no, he's not going to do it. Right. But it's like, hey, Kobe, can you start asking everyone about their sex lives? Or, Patrick, can you say something really shitty and emasculating about another man? And he's like, yeah, great. Puffing out his chest.
That sounds like a production failure, though, because if I was one of these producers, I would figure out how to ask Gino these questions. I don't know, but I guess they don't really want that much to come out in the ITMs. They want it to come out between the cast members, right?
That's why they made Tell All House.
Yes, exactly. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that feels sort of managed. You know what I mean?
Manufactured a little bit.
I mean, if I was just watching them interact in the house, I would naturally send the hottest woman in the house to go talk to Michael, for example, right? Now, that's a personal preference thing. It was Lauren. I mean,
I think Thais was taking a nap, so. Well, Lauren has a big mouth. Lauren's comfortable having conversation.
Right, exactly.
But that did not go as planned. And I did feel for Lauren when she was talking to when what she said kind of blew up the house, or really blew up Angela, who blew up the house.
Before we get there, the salient point that it's okay. I knock these tables constantly. I don't know what it is. Before we go there, I just wanted to bring up an issue that I think, Jack, as a straight man, I was hoping that you could speak to this, because it's something that I'm curious about, because I don't have that particular body part. I've also never had sex with women, so I don't know. But couldn't it be that is there a possibility that he gets hard, he doesn't want to finish too quickly, So he either like overexerts himself and gets in his head about it and can't come. I'll let you sort of talk about it, but you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So with men in general, let's just say with penises in general, despite what people like Patrick want you to think, for a lot of us, maybe more of us who are in touch with our emotions, the penis is connected to the brain. It's not a separate entity. So let's just say Gino says, we know Gino takes Viagra or whatever he takes. I've taken that before I don't need it, but sometimes if you don't want like I'm someone who can get in my head during sex. And for me, I don't have a premature issue there, but you don't want to finish too quickly. You don't want to finish before you pleasure your partner. So, if you get into your head and you're like, I'm not going to come, it's going to take you a little longer to build up to that because you have in your head, don't come. Now, in my relationship, I don't have an issue where someone's screaming at me about
definitely not our style. No.
I mean, I'm not getting yelled at. If I got yelled at while my dick was hard for 45 minutes and I was having sex and everything's going fine, but then it's, fuck you, why can't you come? What's wrong with you, you fucking weirdo? Yeah, guess what? Not gonna come at that point.
You think your dick is just gonna like go inside of your body and hide for safety?
Yeah, I mean, look, and for anyone who doesn't know, like those pills, they're not magic. They help your body not be, they help your dick not be as connected to your brain. But depending on how in your head you are, it's not going to counteract everything. And, when I say they're not magic, it means there still needs to be, let's just take Gino. If Gino needs some foreplay and some nice words to kind of get into the mood, he's never going to get there with Jasmine acting this way.
I wonder if Jasmine has ever tried to make her own little like videos and pictures for him, because I know I don't have a problem with porn. Like we watch porn together, you watch it on your own. Sometimes it's an aid if like everyone's in their head too much, but I know that sometimes you will like step aside and like look at pictures or videos, but they're generally of me. Maybe they're professional, but sometimes they're not. They're personal. And like, what if she did that for Gino, who feels more comfortable maybe in a private moment?
It's a really, really good point. What?
There are some rumors that is perhaps how they met, and that it wasn't perhaps on a dating site, that it might have been more of a...
Let's take that as gospel for 1 second.
Okay.
That might explain why Jasmine freaks out at Gino for looking at videos of his ex-sugar baby, who I guess may have been a cam person or now is a cam model, who Gino's still viewing, which, look,
that's worse than just watching like random porn.
We're getting into ex-girlfriend territory, quote unquote, and I'm not sure that there's, ladies here, please jump in if you disagree, but I feel like that if you're fine with porn, don't know that ex-girlfriend porn is something that you'd be like, oh, cool, that's great. You want to watch yourself fucking someone you used to fuck? Great, that's cool. I'm not sure that's like a big thing that you guys would be okay with. Thoughts?
I don't have like a spank bank with men who I've had, intense
like emotional connection.
Yeah, or like anything resembling that kind of relationship, because it's just too emotional.
Let's say Gino's too in his head and he's too nervous to finish with Jasmine. Like, if you're in a good relationship, you can understand that's not like a referendum on how the guy feels about you. If he's having sex with you for X amount of time and you're having a good time, and to finish, he's got to go into the bathroom and jerk off, that sounds more like a personal issue for Gino than something wrong with men.
But she is so massively insecure, especially when it comes to men, her physical appearance, her ability to play. Like, she is so insecure about herself, and she admittedly so, right? That I don't think she can see it as anything but a referendum on her.
Time out. Is Gino a guy who is like has a terrific self-image and doesn't wear a hat 98% of the time? I mean, like, what are we talking about here? Who I get, and I'm not taking away that Jasmine has negative feelings about herself and her looks and everything, but what about Gino? Is he supposed to somehow be a magician and put all of his shit under the rug and always placate Jasmine? And can he placate her by making his dick hard when it won't get hard?
I hear that, but I think Diana's point is equally valid. I don't think one discounts the other. I'm going to move us on from this just because we're 25 minutes in already.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we have a chance to kind of talk about
the Angela of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping, fine. Let's get it over with. I just want to make one sweeping statement. And I talked before about how terrible this would be if this were her actual personality, because we've heard from other folks who have had interactions with her that she's actually a really kind person, if this isn't some kind of persona, then that's really fucking scary, because she's ruined her own life and she's really made a deal with the devil here. But I have to say, this week, as much as this show can be a refuge and is a refuge, it's also really triggering. And I just want to express solidarity and sympathy and all that with people who are triggered by this content. And so I don't want to go, for all of our sakes, I don't want to go too deep into the tit for tat of it all. I'll just say, for my part, that Angela is not the nicest bitch in this house by a country mile. What she's doing to Michael, the isolating, the berating him in public, all of this is the tip of the iceberg. Imagine what it's like when there aren't cameras and the doors are closed.
It scares me a lot.
I think his life is in danger, and I'm not, or would be if we all know that he got out of this, okay? But
it makes me think of the Screen Rant article we saw about a month ago, whenever we saw it a few weeks ago, when we knew Michael had made it to Angela's, and it was made mention of in this article that Angela would lock Michael inside the house from the outside and have him take care of the grandchildren. Now, I thought that was definitely just some like AI nonsense from Screen Rant, America's favorite AI generated content. But watching her here, it looks definitely like something she did, because she's treating him like he is subhuman, and it's really disgusting on multiple levels, obviously, to watch and witness.
Well, and he seems like, from what we always see of him, he's very calm and he's kind and he's sweet and all of that. Now, he could very well be doing a lot of things that she says he is, in terms of the cheating or, doing things that are sort of gaslighting her. But the way she reacts is unacceptable, regardless of what he's doing. If she's not happy, if she's not okay, she needs to end it. But I have to say it, the abusive nature of how she interacts with him is really unacceptable. I don't know what her mental well-being is like. I don't feel like she is completely stable. And if this is her not being able to hold back on camera, I agree, Michelle, that there's even more when the cameras are off, and it scares me and it's inappropriate, and it just makes me really uncomfortable that we kind of get like this fun enjoyment. I don't think anyone actually gets enjoyment from watching that, but that it's like a sick, like watching a car accident, not being able to turn away kind of experience. And I just don't know that they need to be the center of a TV show just because they're the ones that maybe are bringing in the money. It makes me feel kind of dirty, honestly.
I agree with you. And the only thing I would add to that, Diana, is that it disturbs me the most that this is presented without further comment, because I am so sorry. I'm going to put my phone on silent, you guys. It's to do with air conditioning at my Airbnb. So look, even if we go back to Jenny Jones, Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, all of these things, you had somebody at the center who was supposed to be voice of reason. Now, are they? Not really.
No, but kind of holding it together, guiding it, and security there.
Yes.
No, who doesn't remember Steve from Jerry Springer?
Right, exactly. But the whole point is that, like, on some level, these shows were, yes, it's a bloodbath. Yes, it's feeding people to lions and whatever. But in this day and age, there are people, when you do a show that at its heart is about relationships, and we'll talk when we get to Emily and Kobe, we'll talk about a little more about what this show used to be and where its heart used to be. This is about relationships, and they should have the domestic abuse hotline on the screen, like ticker tape going underneath it the whole time.
But then they're admitting that there is abuse happening, and they are totally silent, not admitting that at all. They're giving her a platform and making her famous and more well-known, and she's getting bigger and bigger and bolder in front of the cameras, and she's going to end up hurting her own image at some point, I think.
My question here is, putting my producer's hat on for a second, is, okay, I get it. I get Angela's a huge draw on Cameo, and, you know, people are maybe brought into the series at this point because of her. This is the most successful reality show in America right now. It's the most watched. To me, it took away a lot, because I was actually, this new format, as we've talked about, is a lot more fun with the reunion house and all of that. It took away from it this week for me, because there's a lot of different conversations going on. There's all these different people who are communicating with each other, who are trying to communicate, even with Angela and Michael. And all of that's kind of ripped away because Angela wants to have another fucking temper tantrum, scream, call Michael everything under the sun, and accuse him of things she can't prove, and then starts accosting other people in the house. She goes after Lauren for talking to Michael, which then makes its way over to the stage. I'm trying to understand, like, get a couple of years ago, okay, we got this awful woman and people are kind of like taken by her. Let's make that the focal point. Why right now so much of this second episode is Angela and Big Ed, the Cameo people? They're not bringing anyone to this show at this point. I'm not sure that there's a lot of people jumping in at this point who are not familiar with the background. So I don't know why they gave Angela so much rope, so to speak. So
the only thing I can think of is that there's a contract in place, because I imagine, because unlike in the UK, this cast is compensated. Imagine, you know, that there were some negotiations made in good faith, and that's me being very generous, and, you know, that fees were agreed and there are consequences for reneging on that.
Question.
But then, yes.
Do you think, if such an agreement exists, do you think Angela committing acts of domestic violence against Michael might be something that could void
the contract? Yeah, I'm sure. But then, but again, I don't know. I know that there are NDAs. I know that there are, you know, things that, and Rob and Sophie apparently have both broken their NDAs and are talking about this. This is not the show for that. Okay. We don't really, we don't go into that, but
check the Reddit.
She also didn't have any actual physical violence that we saw in this scene or in this show.
No, but what I can tell you from a legal perspective, the UK and the US are common law, and Australia are all common law countries. So for the most part, you know, the legal system works the same. And speaking as someone who used to work with survivors of domestic violence in a legal capacity, or working alongside law enforcement and lawyers, Angela has committed several criminal acts.
Are you going back years here?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going back over the course of the show.
Destruction of property.
Destruction of person. Yeah, criminal damage, if
Michael's
you like. I don't
car.
know what it's called here. Yep, criminal damage. Assault, because assault is the feeling, right? Assault is me picking up the hammer and you being scared I'm going to hit you with it. Battery is me hitting you with the hammer.
Yes.
So, but assault alone is prosecutable.
Well, and also even simple assault. If you spit on someone
Yep.
here, that's
Yep.
simple assault.
That's right.
Right.
Like Michael simply assaulted the wall
At Sweet Baby J. Ray's
Sweet Baby J.
Shack
Ray's.
House of Ribs and
Yes.
crocodile tails.
Well, as Ashley says, Angela's going too far.
Cow, you gonna simple assault my friend's wall in his restaurant?
Just to wind it down here, because I want to make sure that we get to
No,
everybody
we're doing
else.
40 minutes on each person.
No, we're not. I want to switch to something really lovely, which did come out of the studio portion of this, which is a return to form, to the old form of this show back when it was a documentary more than reality show, if you like. The relationship between Kobe and his father-in-law, David, and those tender expressions of gratitude and how they've embraced each other, to me, is something that this show is so dearly missing. And I wish we had more of it. And I wish that I wasn't so grateful for moments like that, where I just see people bridge the divide.
Being human to each other.
Yeah.
And I just, what's interesting, I want you two to go ahead with this, but this was buried in this beautiful moment and not anything bad, is we did get some new news. Kobe and Emily don't live in the basement anymore.
That's right.
No more basement children. Yay.
Lisa seems thrilled. David seems mixed.
Lisa, who would like to see the kids once a week, while David probably would be like 6 times a week happy.
I mean, those socks with Coben's face on them were so cute.
And
Adorable.
look, I just want to say, just before we go off into this, just off of what you were saying, a beautiful moment. I mean, I love Kobe. I think he seems like a fantastic dude. I think we'd have a good time together if we met. The way that he appreciates David so much, and, you know, and it looks, you can tell, like, this is not scripted stuff. This isn't stuff that Kobe hasn't expressed to David personally. I mean, it didn't look like the first time, because Kobe's crying, talking about how David made sure he was never homeless. He was never hungry. He, you know, he accepted him. He didn't judge him, all of these things. And now Kobe's making, you know, his own way, and it has his own space. And that feeling of love towards David is so strong. And I just say they've obviously talked about it because David, you know, he doesn't want to get emotional as a Midwestern man. He doesn't want to get emotional on camera, but he does start tearing up when Kobe is crying about kind of like, basically like, how much I love you, Dad. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. Diana and I just about lost it in that moment.
We definitely were tearing up with all the other, apparently, the ladies on set. We were all tearing up from that. It's
or
just,
people in touch with their feminine
right.
emotions.
Another beautiful moment that I really appreciated was actually the conversation that Angela and Alexi had.
You mean when Angela sneak attacked Alexi enjoying a marijuana cigarette outside?
Now, look, that's
Allegedly.
alleged. We don't know.
This was my allegedly.
But I
Jack felt a kinship with Alexi at that stage.
I was going to ask, what's the dream blunt rotation in this house? Like, who would you want to smoke with in this house?
Now, does this have to be people who I think partake, or can this be anybody?
I think people because
Manuel.
For me, yeah.
Okay, my cipher, if
yeah,
you will.
go ahead. Yeah.
Manuel, number one, because that's going to be a good time.
Right.
That's going to be a really good time. I need Kobe in there because that's just terrific energy. I need Alexi in there because I feel deep kinship with Alexi. Love him. Feel like I know him a little bit already. I've known a lot of people like him, related to a lot of people like him. And now I will, based on recent developments, I will throw Rob in there. I think Rob would be a good hang in there. Now, that was easy because I was kind of thinking about a cipher of dudes who I'd want to smoke with. But ladies, if you could jump in and help me, out of the females in the cast today, who do you think smokes? Because we have people with young children. We have a pregnant woman. Like, I think Emily does like smoking weed, but I think she has not smoked in a long time.
Ashley.
For sure.
Oh, Ashley's. Yes.
I mean,
Ashley and Manuel, as long as they're not seated next to each other.
Yeah, they would probably be fun. Like, I think to hang out with when they're getting along.
Yeah, for me it would be those two. I would say Emily if she wasn't pregnant because
Yes.
I
Well,
think
yeah.
she would actually be
That's
a
why I was
lot
throwing
of
her in.
fun.
She'd be fun.
Like when you take away that sort of, I think Lauren would get too paranoid. Like, I think she can't touch the stuff, and that's fine. I'm
Absolutely.
the same, really. I have to
Yeah,
be
definitely
very,
not.
very careful. Like, I can have the tiniest bit and I'll be okay. But as we've discovered, as the two of you have had to wrap me, you've had to swaddle me because I had a little too much. Yeah. But I think
And her little too much didn't even register on Jack's radar.
no, it would never. But let's not ignore the most important thing. So everyone's talking about how best to support Michael. And then Ed careens in with a phone call from his sister Liz about the taco pasta.
Nobody cares, dude.
It was-
Stop making it about you. Literally nobody cares. Nobody believes you. No one's on your side. Move on.
It was over when he talked about it on the last episode. The timing of it was just insane. Was it Liz? Did he cut off his ex-girlfriend, Liz? Okay.
Yes.
So Liz is about to kind of like jump into the conversation everyone's having about Michael and Angela. And Ed kind of goes like, hold on, everybody. Let me come in here. And it was just so he could bring the phone call. His sister doesn't really back him up, doesn't really say much. And then as he hangs up, he basically declares victory to the table. And everyone's like, dude, what are you talking about? Nobody cares.
The fact that, like, now look, I don't like Liz either, but like,
If you had to pick between her and Ed. Maybe not.
I would still find that difficult, but this is just like, Ed really thinks this is some kind of a flex. And you know, when you've got like Jason, who it isn't very high in my estimation. I mean, look, I'm happy that Manuel has a buddy who, like, finally.
That was your favorite thing
Another
about
guy
Jason.
who-
Don't couch it.
But that was
You're
my favorite
number
thing
one.
about Jason. I just like, because I think being in that situation has got to be really hard for Manuel, because I know that he understands a lot of English, but he's clearly not speaking enough of it that he's confident.
I think I will maintain. I think he's a lot more confident when there are not cameras and people watching him.
Sure, maybe not, but it's
Just to relax and be able to speak your thoughts
Absolutely.
right away without filtering them through a translator in your brain. That's just
or
much
having
better.
to like filter it through your wife. Do you know
Literal
what I mean?
mente. Okay?
Literal mente. Not that she doesn't do a beautiful job. Now, before we close this out, Rob doesn't like to shower with Sophie because he says penises in the shower don't work. Now, penises in a bathtub, in a pool, both of which I've had some experience with, that I completely understand.
No,
Like,
no, no.
yeah,
Yes,
that's
it is
not a...
not-
the penis works in the water.
Yeah.
The penetration doesn't
Correct.
work in the water.
In underwater, submerged is not like they show in movies or TV. If you've ever tried it, you know what we're saying.
But what I want to know is, like, has Rob ever experienced a WAP? A WAP.
Thank you.
WAP.
WAP.
Yeah.
And thank you for that song that we have such an easy way to talk about WAPs. No?
Yeah, I don't think from Sophie anyway.
So
But
does-
if he had had any experience, he would know that in the shower, you're not like, first of all, putting the shower water like directly on the
Yeah, you're not
parts.
James
like,
and Tata.
yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, a woman should be able to, or a person with a orifice should be able to make it wet.
as long as the water is not directly spraying on everyone's private parts, you can have sex in the shower. I don't know, do you think that was Rob not wanting to fuck Sophie?
No, I think it's just Sophie's never been wet for him before.
Agreed. Definitely.
So they
not.
have trouble having, well, they probably have trouble having sex in general from what we've
They
seen.
haven't
Yeah.
had much sex in general. It's been
No.
pretty bad. They've
No.
talked about. So no, and I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't like to stand up. Maybe he just gets tired. I don't think. I mean, he goes to the gym, so that can't really be the problem.
I'm so confused by Rob at this point. He seems like a much better dude. I do think, just wrapping up on them, what has really stayed with me is that Rob's demeanor has been different since we saw him return home to Kansas City. The return home to Kansas City and do we know, is he still in Texas or did he come back here?
I think he lives here now.
Okay, so whatever happened there, and I mean, I don't know how long ago the tell-all is. Looks like it's about last winter. Rob just, I don't know, he had an interesting arc, and I've went from I don't ever want to see Rob again to I want to see Rob on The Single Life.
I know, same.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're probably teeing him up for that.
I think they both could end up on The Single Life. Both Rob and Sophie.
She's too boring.
Yes, but they'll have her date women.
Maybe. I don't know. She'll still be a nightmare to watch.
Maybe they can bring back
Definitely.
Fart Jar Stephanie to go on it.
Oh, please. Don't even
Never.
speak that into existence. So over to Plathville now. Let's
We're going to get vulnerable.
I'm ready to get vulnerable. This is a good season. If you're sleeping on Plathville, or if you felt like you had to opt out last year, give it another chance.
Like we did?
This is really this is a good show. This main part of the show, which I think is a good place to start, and then maybe we can just smatter in other bits and pieces. What are our thoughts about Mariah's big apology to Olivia? Diana, can we? Oh no, I'm so sorry. We are getting word from our production team. She's a little late, which is very unlike her, but Mercury retrograde, technical issues. We do have Diana's mother, Cheryl, coming in just to talk about the state of play on Happily Ever After. Cheryl, are you with us?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I've been waiting from my rent-controlled apartment in New York City, where I've been living for almost 50 years now. So, even though I'm a Midwest girl at heart, I'm such a New Yorker. So I'm here. I've been waiting. I've been here. The producers have just been holding me on the line, talking to me and asking me questions.
I'm so sorry. We're really trying to be careful and respectful about time. We have been having some technical issues in the week, but
I know Jack, so don't you worry. I know Jack and his time management. I've known him for 20 years, okay?
Cheryl, what do you make of the couples on HEA? Do you feel like, are there people who you see improving? Are there people who,
I just find the whole thing so ishy. It's all just so gross, how they treat each other, camera. I really just don't see it being okay. And I don't see a lot of these couples in therapy, and they really need to get into some therapy if they want to work through these challenges. I mean, you have to deal with some of this stuff in private, and to talk about some sexual personal issues like that is really inappropriate. And, they need to learn some mirroring and how to really listen and validate each other, because they're all just talking to hear themselves talk instead of really trying to validate and understand their partner and show love and appreciation.
So just taking Gino and Jasmine as an example, Cheryl, and Gino is a fellow Midwesterner.
Yeah, but, not Minnesota, but, he's close in the Michigan area. So that's fine.
So what would you, sorry, I was starting to mirror you, Cheryl, with your accent. It's contagious.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. That's really good practice, Michelle. You must have done some really good therapy in your life. I can tell.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you. That's very generous. What would you recommend for Gino and Jasmine? Gino being sort of reluctant to get back in the saddle, as it were, and Jasmine really craving that intimacy with him.
Yeah, I would say they need to start small. They need to start doing little things for each other that are just for the other person, that aren't about themselves or getting recognition, but really just being there for the other person. Gino can do stuff like really nice, just gentle touches onto Jasmine, and Jasmine should be trying to really hear him and listen to him and not be so judgmental with him. I think if they can, both come from a place of love and acceptance and appreciation, that they'll have a much better time in their relationship. They really should be in some couples counseling, because there's resentment, and because one of them is really avoidant and one is really anxious in their attachment styles. And so, the more Jasmine kind of attacks with her anxiety onto Gino, the more he's going to retreat into his little shell. So they really need to work on their communication styles.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you for waiting and for your patience and dropping your wisdom on us.
I don't
So
even
I was going to
remember.
ask the two of you about the root of this episode, which is really about Olivia and Mariah's big apology, Grandma and Papa's farm.
Mariah. I mean, first of all, you could barely hear her apology. Michelle, what did it sound like again? Can you just give us a little taste of her? Can you play an audio clip of her apology, please?
Sure.
I just felt like the right thing to do. Take responsibility for it and to just own it. But instead of taking any accountability or owning anything, I'm going to be as vague as humanly possible so that I can always shift it back onto you at a later point as it serves me to do that.
Yeah, I hope that you could all hear that audio clip of Mariah's apology. I wonder if you put it into a song, Mariah, if we would actually be able to hear it a little bit better. Maybe that can be your next song, is the apology song instead of the shady shit talking song.
I believe it's the Burn Book song.
Well, neither of them have seen that movie, obviously, because
They've seen the remake of
they've
I saw the
They've-
musical.
fundamentally, but even the musical, that is not what that means.
It is fetch, though. You know what I'm saying?
Stop trying to make fetch happen, Jack. I mean, who won this battle of Olivia versus Mariah? In
Olivia,
this
look, Olivia took the high road going in. I think she's, let's say, infinite times more connected to herself than Mariah is. And I even take that from when we see Olivia in the car and she's just talking to the camera herself. She knows what she's going in for. She already has Mariah kind of like locked in her brain. She knows who Mariah is. And what I saw Olivia sort of, the most she can in this kind of situation, kind of trying to work through and not necessarily forgive, but accept and move on.
I think that golf clap for Olivia with this, because first of all, this was a nonsense apology. It was totally non-specific and completely vague. And this was for Mariah. This was not about Olivia at all.
Which Olivia makes mention of.
Yes. And what I appreciated from this, and what I could go into a situation like this, and I don't think I could come anywhere near this level of grace and this level of empathy and compassion for somebody who had treated me that badly. And there are people in my life that I have, to use therapy speak, fractured and repaired with in terms of our relationships and ways of being toward each other. My problem is that when I forgive and I have sympathy, but when I'm back in conflict with that person, I'm really in it.
It all comes back up, right? It's
Yep,
like everything
exactly.
comes through, flooding through. It doesn't matter if you've kind of ended that beef, like whatever it is, that it all is going to come flooding back.
Exactly. And I've never been able to go, okay, well, that happened a long time ago, so I don't have to engage there like always. And I feel like Olivia came in with very low expectations. She also wasn't going to give Mariah anything of herself, right?
Yeah, I wondered if Mariah knew that or understood that, because she's, not the brightest or most aware of social
not smart
interactions. I really do wonder what Mariah thought she would get out of this, or what would happen. Like, would Olivia just forgive her if she gave any kind of apology and be able to move on and then be like, that would be it?
I don't think Mariah actually had a full sense of what would happen, because she looked like she didn't know why she was there. She looked unprepared to actually apologize. I'm sorry. It felt a lot like Mariah went there to see her grandparents, I guess, even though we didn't see that, and get some promo shit going for her crappy song.
Did you guys detect weird sexual tension between Ethan and Mariah when they were in the bar?
Ew, yes. Very creepy.
It was more, yes, because it was obviously unsaid, but it was the way they were sitting together, the way Ethan was looking at her, and the way Mariah was, I don't know, she was acting like she was his date. I mean, I don't have a better way to say it, really.
So I want to give like Mariah a little defense or props or
Boo.
something. I know. I'll be that one.
Boo.
I just have to say that for whatever reason of her doing it, even if it was totally self-serving, which I believe most of it was, I think it was also quite brave of her, knowing who she is and how she interacts and how she's really afraid of these kind of social interactions and all of that. And knowing Olivia is very confident, and Olivia was kind of like her big sister and taught her how to be out in the world. Like, she knows Olivia is more advanced than her in a lot of ways. And I think it was pretty brave for her to actually even have this conversation, even if the reasons were self-serving. To actually be able to do it, I think took a lot from somebody like her.
I think that's a really great point, and I want to get back to that. But we do have Mariah here. She wants to give us, because there was an original cut of this song that wasn't quite as produced and the words were not quite as clear. But Mariah, would you mind, and I'm sorry, thank you so much for coming on. I know I just crushed you, and that shows a lot of growth on your part to even come on to a program like this. Would you mind giving us a couple of bars, I think as the kids call it, of the original song?
Sure, Jack. The original song was really different, and it kind of sounded like this. Fuck you for what you said about my family. You used me and put me in a bad situation. Siblings and it.
I got to say, actually, I think that initial version, I'm sorry what the record company did to you, because I think that one came from your heart a little bit more than the produced version.
I'm so glad you asked me about that, Jack, because I've been wanting to talk about it for a really long time. But I have to go because there's somebody that I need to text to. I haven't texted back in like a week, and sometimes if I don't text someone back after like a week, it means I'm not going to text them back at all. So I'm going to go do that. Okay, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure, just Mariah, before you go, just a couple questions about your relationship that didn't work out.
I won't be speaking on that because it's really personal.
Mariah, thank you so much. She's off the line now. She has left. It was a really...
Thanks for giving me a break there. I needed to stretch.
Oh, you needed
what
a
I
second.
missed.
Now, it was Mariah, which you'll hear it on the playback. She gave us I had talked to you. I wanted to get her on for that original recording, but you didn't hear that part, so we'll have to get your take on that later.
Okay.
What was your take on the produced song that Olivia referred to as a burn book song?
Well, I had heard it before. I mean, you want my opinion as...
Not in terms... You can get... I want your opinion of it as a produced song, but first... I want your opinion of it in the content than the words that Mariah used.
It's just such a okay.
You had big thoughts. That's why.
No, I only have one thought, and that's that the whole metaphor doesn't work. Because in the beginning, they're talking about going to the carnival, right? We went to the carnival or whatever. And then she talks about the circus and fire, juggling flames and whatever. The carnival and the circus are two very different entities.
Very different.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, sometimes you get them both together.
Well, do you think that she in the greater Cairo, Georgia area had more like carnival circus combos?
Would they have been allowed to go?
Ooh,
it's not very Christian.
Excellent point. No, I don't think clowns are allowed, right? In that house? Only Kim.
Speaking of
Troutmouth.
I'm gonna need Ken to stay far away from these children.
Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable.
And I'm
gonna
need to not sexualize a little girl. Okay?
That part bothered you? Weird.
You know what's interesting? I remember going to see a movie. Do you guys remember Let the Right One In? Not the American remake, but the original
I never saw
one.
it. Yes, I saw it. You're talking. What was it? Danish?
Yes, something like that. Finnish, something like that. Yeah.
Movie. It's about a kid. It's about a quote little girl.
Is it like
vampire.
a Lolita type?
No, it's about a little
not
girl
at all.
vampire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's scenes in it where, there's a child in a state of undress. And I remember seeing that movie in the theater with my dad, and we both walked out of it kind of being like, ugh. Well, like, was that okay? That did not feel okay, right? And then I remember talking about it at film school, and there were a lot of Scandinavian, because I went to film school in London, there were a lot of Scandinavian people, and their view on that is they deal with nudity, generally speaking, in a totally different way. Finnish people in particular, like you do saunas and stuff, and you see adults naked and you see kids naked, and it's not. And I wondered, and I started to think, am I projecting this like
American chastity sexuality?
It's not even that so much. Like, I wonder if there's like a dual, the American puritanical thing, but there's also the like, I'm so as a survivor of childhood abuse, not anyone from my family, thank God. I wonder if I look for that and pick up on it in ways that other people don't.
Probably a little bit more hyper aware of something like that if you've been through it or known someone who has, or it's been a part of your own life and existence. You kind of pick up on little signals that may or may not be actually there.
Not to go on a tangent, but just with Let the Right One In, and also going further in the Wayback Machine, Interview with the Vampire, similar things there with Kirsten Dunst. She was like 12 or 13 when that came out. Look, I'm not making a comment on if it's appropriate or not, but those two characters are vampires that are technically ageless. So I wonder if the producers of the film were kind of looking at it that way, even if it is off-putting and distasteful to the general public.
I think the difference for me, and that's valid, I think my issue here is that this is a child and there's a sentient pile of cockroaches.
Yummy, yummy. I just love how you say that word over and over again.
This is a lot. And given Ken's, I just want to say fuck you, Kim, over and over and over. Like, I want to play the Taylor Swift song, Fuck You, Amy, like a million times.
I was going to say we could also do South Park Cartman singing Fuck Kyle's Mom. Either way, depending on the audience.
This is just, I just hate this.
Well, it's just also very interesting that she's all of a sudden like given up on giving a shit about the outcome of what happens to her children. Like, oh no, I was really overbearing and made my kids wear like turtleneck dresses and, hair up and listen to, country, Western or Christian music. But, now I'm going to go in the complete opposite direction and let them wear whatever they want, as much makeup as they want, and not really care about the outcome.
And Kim was definitely, allegedly, molested by a stepfather,
right,
or a mom's boyfriend kind of thing.
She should know better.
There's a reason, by the way, in her defense, and this is the only time I will come to her defense, I think that she doesn't know. She did grow up on a boat. I think the reason she doesn't know anything about boats is because she has huge gaps in her memory from things that she had to black out. Yes. But before we go...
Just add one comment here, just on Ken, before we get away from Cockroach Ken. Can you ask me, I'm going to answer as Ken, can you ask me how I won over the children?
How did you win over the children, Ken?
I won them over with ice cream, like any good pedo would. I'm sorry for that. That's what it felt like. And you just kind of went in that arena. It sounds disgusting. I am not throwing any allegations at Ken. He comes off like a creepy guy who likes to look at little girls.
I agree with you.
That's my opinion.
And I also think that Kim would have dated him no matter what these kids thought of him, even if they hated him 100%. Forever.
She did date him no matter what they thought.
So for her to sort of act like, oh, I'm so glad because, like any mom, I wouldn't bring someone into their lives who was threatening to them or upsetting to them.
Bring someone into their lives. But if it's like a neighbor we've known for a while and I kind of want to like insert him into their lives, that's fine.
Right? Jack, I'm going to send you out for a
thank you.
Comfort break.
All right,
and we've got Adrian, Diana's mother-in-law, on deck. Hi, Adrian.
Hold on, there's dogs. Okay, I'm here.
Hi, Millie.
Hi, Diana. Who else is there? Hello?
It's Michelle. We've
Oh,
not
hi.
met yet, but
Hi,
we've
Michelle.
spoken before.
I've been texting about you. Yes, Michelle. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I just have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of personal issues. But no, it's fine. I'm happy to jump on and talk about whatever it is. I forgot what you told me I was here for.
I was going to ask you, as someone who went through divorce and went into single parenthood, what boundaries did you have in place? Like, how did you go about dating? What was your experience as a single parent?
Well, I took things a little differently. You know, I know that Jack kind of would have wanted me. I know he's said as an adult now that maybe finding a father figure would have been nice. I think he understands now, though, that at his age, he understands why he couldn't date anyone my age. But, you know, I thought it was important to just kind of be exploring myself and kind of put my children kind of on the back burner.
So do you agree with sort of Kim Plath's approach here that it's really important to like have your hot girl summer and just get your toes out, get some air in those bunions, and
it was very stressful at the time. You know, I wasn't working and my mother lived in our building and she would take care of the kids, and Jack's father wasn't living there anymore and worked outside of New York City, so I didn't really see him. So taking all that into account, it was horribly stressful to think about the children and what was going on all day, even though I was doing my own thing.
Yeah. And how did they feel about the people you brought home or the person you dated? Did they he was like a good kind of stepfather figure or anything like that?
someone appropriate to have around children that age?
I mean, when you talk about children that age, you have to understand, I mean, children growing up in New York City are older than other children, you know? So it's almost like they were sort of like in their mid-20s when they were 14 and 10.
Okay. But I think, speaking as a step parent myself, I always tried to keep the child at sort of the center and to make sure that his safety was always paramount in our house, which is why I didn't move in with my husband until we had been together for about a year, and we had done overnights at my house just so that we really wanted to keep it child centered.
Well, I guess things were a little bit different back then. I thought it was appropriate to maybe, have people over and just not really tell Jack or his sister about what was going on, and they would hear the man there. But if they couldn't see the man, then it was almost like the man wasn't there.
Even though, these were at times, pretty high conflict relationships, would you say?
You've been talking to Jack and his sister, haven't you?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You know what? It isn't my place. We won't go there. Thank you so much for your time, Adrian.
Wait, I'm done already? Okay, I mean, if that's all you needed, I guess that's fine.
We'll make sure to give you a call soon, okay?
Okay, Diana, that's you. Okay. We'll pick this up. But this was so fun. I'd love to talk more about what I went through as a single parent, struggling on the daily.
Okay, we're going to have to go now, Adrian, okay?
Okay.
How are you doing, Jack?
Okay, I won't lie. I did eavesdrop a little bit.
No, we were trying to keep you protected from that.
I will say the TW, the trigger warning you gave me earlier, I got into the right frame of mind, so I knew what was coming, but I wasn't horrified.
Well, your mom was very pleasant, okay?
Was she nice to you too?
Yeah, she was nice to both of us, which was really good because I feel like I'm not a scapegoat anymore.
An scapegoat? You never want to be a scapegoat.
We can always escape you onto a houseboat.
Yeah, no thing. Before we...
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. It's still about Kim before you move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Amber, who is, I get confused as to which...
She's 14.
She's 14.
Yeah, she's the oldest of the young
little
girls.
quote unquote. Okay. Did you happen to catch Michelle, who she referenced as her BFF?
Oh, God. That was painful.
This is the most insidious parentification of a child and manipulation of a child that I've seen on this network in a very long time. This is like,
it's Kim, by the way. That's
yeah,
who she says her BFF
this is worse than Sophie having to Narcan her mother. I just think this is so awful that, you know, she's not allowed to have a negative opinion about that. If she wants her mother's love and approval, she's not allowed to have a negative opinion about Ken. I think I've said this before on this podcast, but my therapist, when I was a young woman who made a huge difference in my life, she said to me in a candid moment, she said, she said, you know, up until I was about 30, I didn't know what I thought about something until I talked to my mother about it and knew what her opinion was. And boy, can I relate to that. I've been, I don't know if it's in the time that we grew up, like in the 80s and 90s, there was something very different about having a mom who worked.
Yes.
And this isn't me putting any kind of judgment on anything. And I'm not saying that staying at home isn't also work. And I remember like just constantly feeling like I had to get these snatches of time from her. And I wonder if, I'm not saying Kim is a professional woman, because now she's even farming out her own fucking job to her children, right? I think it's gotta be so hard when you're going through the breakup and the breakdown of the only home that you've ever known. You don't have your real mom, Lydia, at home to like see you through this transition. Now you're having to deal with like your biological mom who is just entirely focused on this man. And, you know, I think they probably have a feeling like, okay, if I'm not like gung ho for Cockroach Man, then I'm going to get even less of my mother's time and attention and energy.
Well, and honestly, if it were me, I would be like, okay, I'll deal with Ken because there's actually space and property for me to like go hang out on instead of being stuck in this disgusting tiny little boat with like 4 people all the time and going to the bathroom on like a marina bathroom. I'd be like, yeah, Ken's cool, Mom. Like, can we go hang out on his like 18-acre property or whatever?
Would you mind, and this is like, please don't, I can just cut this if this is too much, but can you speak to kind of like transitioning into your stepdad's house and what that was like? Because I know that I'm aware that your stepdad is a character.
Is such a character. And look, I get along well with him now without having to live under his roof, but he definitely has severe OCD that he's not, dealt with and that he's been able to manage. But it's very controlling. I need to control his space and his environment. And when my mom and I moved in, I was around Amber's age. I was a little bit younger, and it was really difficult. And it created a lot of challenges in my relationship with my mother. I had kind of been, like you said, I'm an only child. So when it was at home, it was just me and my mom, and I was kind of in charge. Like I had, and, probably had too much power and control for a 12, 13-year-old, but moving into, his space and my mom kind of allowing me to feel that it was his space. Like he needed to do things like have a TV schedule for the little TV room that was a comfortable space. He's afraid of change. So no new furniture in the living room. It was super uncomfortable. So we would fight over this little TV room, and he would win whenever sports were on. He got to make a schedule that worked for him. I had to follow new rules. Things that happen to you when you're that age leave a lasting mark. And no matter what you do later in life, it's always going to sit in a very like soft, tender spot in your have created who you are as an adult now. And it really did do that to me. And so I get along with him, and I do appreciate a lot of his good qualities as well. He's not like a bad person, but it was really difficult and really troubling for me as a preteen into teenager.
And what did that do for particularly when that transition was happening and you sort of, I mean, you call it like having lost power or agency, but like that must have from a security standpoint, how did that make you feel?
Well,
And from a loyalty standpoint, how did that make
I
you
definitely
feel?
felt like my mom chose him over me all the time. And I felt really like unprotected, unsafe, not unsafe in a real unsafe way. I mean, it was always safe and cared for. I mean, like emotionally unsafe to kind of be myself and have my needs met. And it became a lot more about his needs than my needs. And having been an only child and had my needs been the focus for a long time, it was a really big, challenging transformation. And I was definitely very rebellious as a teenager because of it. And really picked a lot of fights with her because like I couldn't really fight with him. I wasn't safe to. So she and I would have the blow ups. Like I would blow up at her and she would feel in the middle. And I'm kind of like, well, you put yourself there. You made that bed.
I think it's really for mothers and daughters in particular, and I'd love to hear how the listeners feel about this. I think that, I mean, I didn't have that experience with my mother, but I think there was definitely a point where I went from like a pathological need to appease her and get her approval to then going, okay, fuck you. I'm rejecting you then.
100%.
I'm getting my tongue pierced. I am having sex in my bedroom and I am sneaking in boys through the basement. You know what I mean?
Anything to go against your rules and your values as a human.
Yes.
Like, I want to do everything and to make you see me and like notice and like get you riled up.
Yeah, because and of course in retrospect it's like, God, like pissing her off was so much better than her ignoring me. Jack, I'm sorry, you were going to say something and I kind of jumped in there.
Keep going.
I wanted to end this segment because we're running a little long, but I wanted to end the Plathville segment. Can you tell the story about the menorah air conditioner just for a little bit of...
So as you know, Jack and I have been together for 20 years. 11 of them have been married. But so Jack has been, you know, when we were young, he was at my house a lot and he's been, you know, at my parents' house. And so he's been a fixture in there and has a relationship with my mom and stepdad and the apartment in general.
Yes, I am the tech man in that home. Whenever I go, everything, stuff that makes sense, the stuff that doesn't make sense, I'm the one who figures it out. So last summer, Diana and I, when we visit New York, will spend some time staying at her mother and stepfather's place on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And so I don't know if Diana said this about her stepfather just now, but he's also frugal or insanely cheap, depending on how you want to look at it. So, of course, last summer,
Jack, even more so than the frugality is the fear of change and difference.
And now I'm not going to get into let's just say there was, at the time this was happening, Diana's stepfather was recovering from his second hip replacement, and her mother had rented one of those chairs that helps you get up. I'm not going to go into this big story, but let's just say myself and Diana were watching Jack Ryan, the TV show, last season with John Krasinski. And at the same time, it was August. So about exactly a year ago, it was like 94 degrees in New York. It was about 105 degrees in their apartment, but the window was closed and the air conditioner was on. So that should be great and should be helpful. Unfortunately, it was the same air conditioner that was in Diana's original apartment. It's a giant brown window unit from 1978. It's been sitting there and it was just pumping exhaust out from like buses and Manhattan traffic. And I asked Diana's mother, like, hey, like, so when did you like have Freon like put back in here? And she said, no, it doesn't need that. And I was like, okay, it does. So have you ever had it replaced? No. Okay. And I said, you do realize the air is warm that's coming in. And she said, oh no, but it's cooling off. And I said, no, it's not, but that's okay. And she said, well, it still works. And she insisted it worked and whatever. I wasn't going to argue, but I did push the Freon issue. And I said, okay, just a few minutes later, I said, just to be clear, just so there's never been Freon put into that. She said, no, never. And I said, okay, then you have the menorah of air conditioners It just took a little bit of Freon and it just kept going forever. And the hilarious thing, of course, the day after I said that, the air conditioner mercifully died. And then I believe that was followed. We left and came back here. I believe that might have been followed by like 6 to 8 weeks of heavy research as to what air conditioner would replace that air conditioner.
Oh no, Jack, he did the research over the couple of years leading up to that so that it only took a little while to get the new air conditioner because he had already researched
he was ready.
and was waiting for it to die, would not replace it until it was on its last breath.
So I would say, look, I mean, Michelle, you're having an air conditioning issue where you're staying. If you are somebody who runs hot, and I am somebody who runs hot, don't try to bullshit someone who needs air conditioning to be comfortable.
Yeah, don't, please, as the overheated community, don't talk to me about temperature and comfort levels. Just don't.
Just make it cold.
Let people be comfortable with the temperature that works for them.
Jack, I've never met anyone who actually has steam coming off their body, though.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
it's true.
unique.
Even especially in the bed in the morning. I mean, you should see. Like it's like he is steaming, literally.
Like
I'll literal mente
walk into the bathroom. I've been like, "Oh, Jack, you had a shower?" And he's like, "No, what are you talking about?"
To be clear, since you're talking about my overheatedness, I don't smell.
No, you smell great. You
That's
never
why
smell.
I called it steam. I didn't say like stink waves.
No, I'd like to make it clear to the listening
You're very
audience.
clean and you
We
smell
get
great.
it. Your dick
Okay?
works. You have no sex problems.
Yep.
You've never premature ejaculated.
You don't work out and this is your
You don't work
arm.
out and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
your arm.
yeah.
We get it. You're perfect.
So fucking
okay?
proud of you. Must be nice.
Must be nice. Join us over on Patreon for some Love is Blind and some other TV. Love is Blind UK. Sorry, I keep having to say that. And some other fun stuff we've been watching. We're going to talk about it. But first, I'm going to offer to make this beautiful couple a spaghetti dinner.
Taco spaghetti? Taco pasta?
Taco pasta. Why not?
How dare you? Spaghetti dinner. What a gal. Look at this.
Well, it's a British spag bowl is a British delicacy, and I think it's about time I make it for you.
Hey, when I first met you, said I want to introduce you to all the phenomenal culinary beauty.
I make few things very well, and this is one of them. So
I'm ready for it.
all right, get your big bowls of pasta and join us on Patreon. We love you. That's it. Almost, except come to Patreon.
For now.